Hey, what's up guys? Drew here over at RevHiker Outdoors, and I've got definitely a different video for you today, but I think it's going to be pretty cool. Now, one of the YouTubers that I've followed for a while now, his name is Devin, and his channel is called Backcountry Exposure. He's out in Utah, does some really good stuff, some high quality videos, so go check him out. But anyway, he contacted me and he said that he wanted to do like a collaboration video with a few other YouTubers, and not where we all get together and do stuff so much as we all want to do a video on the same topic. And that topic is top 3 backpacking must-haves. And this video was really difficult for me to put together. I had to think a lot about it. But before I get into that, I want you to go check out these other channels. They're all going to be we're all releasing these videos within a couple days of each other. And so let me just list those for you. First off, obviously, is Backcountry Exposure. The second one is Jack's Drinkwater, and that's Jack's with 2 X's. I will have links in the description for all these guys. Also, Utah Steve Outdoors, Wasatch Gear Review, and Tim Watson. Now, like I said, I'll put links for all those guys. I am subscribed to all of them. You know, I think the biggest one of the channels is like 2,500 or 2,300 subscribers. So, and a couple others are less than 1,000. But they've got some really good stuff. Some of them are just starting out. So, go ahead, go over there, give them a subscribe. They've got some really good content. They're doing some pretty cool stuff. So, go ahead, check them out. Now that that's done, let me get into my top 3 backpacking must-haves. Well, I know I said that before that this was a difficult choice for me, and I really wasn't kidding, because in backpacking there's a seemingly like endless list of gear that people on YouTube and people at your local store and people all over the internet say you must have. So this one was hard for me. I really wanted to make it stuff, well, you'll see. The first one I'm going to talk about, the first thing that I think any backpacker needs is a good knife. I don't necessarily mean expensive knife, but I think a good knife, because I don't mean this just because, like, you know, you might not have to cut a whole lot on your trip. You know, you might think, oh, you know, I've heard guys say you don't even need a knife, which I think is nuts. But I think you need a quality knife that's going to hold its edge and that will hold up in an emergency. Because backpacking is one of those things where we do a lot of planning and we try to, you know, have stuff for every occasion, and we think it's all going to go perfectly, but there's really some times where it doesn't go well at all. And kind of as I was thinking about this, what came to mind was that movie and the story 127 Hours. You know, and some of you guys might know it, but it's I cannot remember the guy's name. But he got trapped in a canyon. His arm got pinched in a boulder and ended up having to cut his own arm off to survive. And he had like a junky little Swiss Army knife. It was an off-brand. It wasn't an actual Swiss Army knife. And he couldn't find his, so he just grabbed this little cheesy one. And man, it was a lot harder than it would have been if he had a good quality blade. Now, obviously I'm not saying that everyone's going to get trapped in a boulder and get stuck and need to cut their arm off, but there's plenty of, you know, backpacking is kind of one rolled ankle, one wrong turn, one misstep, one careless moment away from disaster when you're really in the backcountry, especially if you're running solo like I tend to do a lot. One mistake can really mean the end of things if you're not prepared. And for me, there's so many uses for a knife. I would say that definitely has to be one of my top 3, and these are not in order, by the way, but this is one of my top 3 backpacking must-haves. Now, my next must-have item, I'll admit, might seem a little bit abstract and kind of out there, but it's a good pack. Okay, if you're backpacking, you really should have a decent pack. And again, I don't mean something that's expensive. And I know I said that with the knives too, and I almost forgot. As far as knives go, you don't have to spend a lot. You can get something that's solid and very light for under 30 bucks. Something like a Mora, something like this Mora Eldris, which I'll be doing a review on shortly. But anyway, as far as a backpack goes, you need something that fits you, and you need something that is fit to you. You can have a pack that is the correct size for you, but if it's not adjusted and fitted correctly to you, you're going to be miserable. If your pack is garbage and your pack doesn't really work and your pack is this, that, and the other thing, it can break your trip. When I was really getting started, I had this old external frame, and it was like a plastic external frame. It was a pretty cheap one, and I'm like 6 miles in from where the car is, halfway up the mountain, and this thing just lets loose. The strap just lets loose, and I had, at that time, it was pretty heavy. It was probably had close to 50 pounds in there, and it swung around and jerked on this shoulder and yanked me off the trail and knocked me over. And I banged up my leg and everything, and it stunk. I hated it. It made my trip miserable, and I had to sit there and figure out a way to try to fix this thing on the trail. So you want a good solid pack that fits you, because if you got a pack where all the weight's on your shoulders and you don't have the waist belt adjusted right, you're going to be in tons of pain. So anyway, find out about how packs fit. Go to a place that's legit and get fitted for a pack and load it up and test it out before you pull the trigger on it, especially if you're just getting into it. But you need a pack that fits well and is adjusted well. Now, that kind of brings me, my last story there kind of brings me, to my last point. And right now I'm doing a little bit of a bushwhack through these woods, following some deer tracks and stuff like that. Anyway, my pack broke, and I didn't have the part that broke. It was a pin that broke. So I needed to be able to fix this thing. And that brings me to my third thing that you definitely need while you're backpacking. And it's not so much an item, but I believe that, and this might be the most important thing to me, you need the ability to improvise while you're backpacking, because no matter how much gear you bring, no matter how good your gear is, how much your gear costs, or any of that stuff, it can all go to crap. Everything can fall apart. And I'm not trying to be like some, doomsdayer, but all of your gear can fail. You can fall into a creek just by accident or something like that, and unless you're in the desert, you can fall into a creek, all right? And all of your stuff can get soaked, or your backpack can fall off and float down the creek or the river, and you're not able to catch it. You're there 10 miles out with nothing except for what's in your pockets, okay? So you need the ability to improvise. And I know this isn't an item, and maybe this is not what Devin was looking for, but for me, this is my video. So anyway, you need to be able to improvise. You need to be able to carry on with next to nothing. And before I ever got into backpacking, I went to a camp. It was a Christian boys camp when I was a kid, and we learned survival, we learned campcraft, learned riflery and archery and canoeing and sailing, but my favorite was learning survival. We had this one thing that you could go to, and I'd go there for like 3 hours a day and practice and do all these different skills, and you had to do all these different things, and I loved it. And it taught me a lot, because I did it for 7 years, 7 summers, and I think without that I would definitely be a little bit more afraid going into the woods, because if you do lose your gear somehow, and it's very unlikely that it will, But if you lose it, you need to be able to get out alive. You need, you know, again, going back to that movie, 127 hours. That's a pretty big improvisation to cut off your own arm, but the guy realized that he was dead without it. So that's why I think the ability to improvise, and not just the ability to improvise, but getting the proper training. Some people are just so hyper-focused on backpack and gear, and they get so reliant on their gear that if their gear fails, they're dead in the water. I think to be a responsible backpacker, especially if you got a family and stuff like that, you need to have some, if not formal survival type training, you need to gobble up as much as you can on YouTube. And that's hard because there are definitely some clowns out there that talk about survival, and you know, they don't know their rear end from a hole in the ground when it comes to survival, but sometimes you just got to chew the meat and spit out the bones. But anyway, guys, I don't want to be too awful long-winded, but that is my third and final, maybe most important, top backpacking must-have. Should definitely have a good quality knife. You should definitely have a good fitting, sturdy pack, and you definitely need to know how to do without either of those things or any of your other gear. Really, I just encourage you to take some time and learn even some basic survival stuff, basic navigation stuff, because in an emergency, you know, we never think that it's going to happen, but it happens to a lot of people every year. That stuff can save your butt, even some basic stuff. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Please go check out those other channels that I mentioned before, and again, I will have a link in the description for all those, so go check them out, watch their videos, subscribe, like, they're all good guys. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe, and a special thanks to Devin for inviting me to do this. I cannot wait to see all the other videos from this. So God bless, guys. Don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe. I will catch you later.